The human psyche cannot help but wonder what the future will look like, even though they may not be around to see it. This curiosity is a natural or innate part of being human, and thanks to rapid technological advancements around the world, this sense of curiosity has only been strengthened. Since the animated sitcom The Jetsons first aired in 1962, people have wondered what the cars of the future will look like. So today, we're looking at how cars of the future look. Here's a sneak peek. It's insane. You don't want to miss this. First up, what can we expect from the cars of the future? The automotive industry is currently undergoing a radical and unprecedented transformation in engineering technology. And today, there are 4 key design factors that are driving this transformation: electricity, autonomy, a new architectural mindset, and connectivity. Because of this huge transformation, it is possible that in the near future, cars will look drastically different than what they look like today, as this new software and hardware is designed and implemented on all vehicles around the world. All of this change will undoubtedly have a profound impact on the manufacturing sector and those responsible for building millions of cars per year. Next up, we'll talk about the first factor driving the auto industry transformation: electricity. This may come as a surprise to some, but electric cars have actually been around since the 1830s, well before the advent of the gasoline-powered car, which wasn't invented until 5 decades later in the 1880s. Scottish inventor Robert Anderson designed the first electrical vehicle that ran on non-rechargeable batteries. Electricity is the first factor that lit the fuse of the automotive industry's technological transformation that we're seeing today. 20 years ago, the idea of electric cars becoming mainstream seemed far-fetched. At the time, many automotive insiders believed that the only practical use for electric cars would be for public transportation. Today, we now see those insiders couldn't have been more wrong, because today electric cars have officially become mainstream. There's no denying the fact that the electric and hybrid engines will eventually replace gasoline-powered internal combustion engines, and from an environmental perspective, this will likely be a positive development. Up next, we'll look at the second factor driving this transformation: autonomy. For many, this factor is the most interesting one of them all. The idea that someday cars will be able to drive themselves is both mind-blowing and boggling. For many, it's a concept that's difficult to wrap their heads around. Pascal Briere, the executive vice president of the Altran Group based out of Silicon Valley, California, is in charge of strategy, technology, and innovation. Briere said, "This development will be in stages. We start without feet, and then do without hands, and then eventually without eyes." According to Briere, the first stage of autonomous revolution without feet has actually been around for several decades and is familiar to millions of drivers around the world. Cruise control. You set your desired speed, push a button, take your feet away from the pedals. Next up, we'll discuss the future role of autonomy and its impact on the automotive industry. Remember what Briere said: without hands? Well, today some vehicles are equipped with systems that allow drivers to take their hands off the steering wheel in certain situations like parking or traffic jams. But when it comes to autonomy, without feet or hands is really only the tip of the iceberg. For full autonomy, cars must be able to operate without the assistance of drivers' eyes. That's why today engineers are working around the clock to figure out how to make this a reality so that cars can be 100% autonomous. In order to do this, engineers are using a series of sensors, cameras, and even lasers that can quickly analyze a vehicle's surroundings, which will in turn allow the vehicle to make driving choices and the decisions on its own. As we'll see shortly, most of the world's auto manufacturers are taking a very serious look at autonomous cars, and for the past few years have been conducting real-world road tests outside of laboratories. Up next, we'll look at the third factor driving the automobile's technological revolution: connectivity. Connectedness is closely intertwined with the second factor, autonomy. For cars to be able to make the right decisions on the road, they must be able to share or connect to various external information systems. For cars to truly be fully autonomous, their systems have to be able to access real-time information related to things such as vehicle condition, weather and traffic conditions, and even information related to accidents and the locations of service stations. These connectivity systems will use a series of sensors not only to communicate with other vehicles on the road, but also to communicate with roads, bridges, and even buildings and structures. These autonomous systems will access and connect with online services such as cloud, Wi-Fi, and various media and entertainment information sources. These impressive changes in connectivity will allow drivers around the world to become more productive and consume more information as they travel longer distances. Only in a world where vehicles are fully autonomous will drivers be able to reply to emails, watch films on streaming services, or even have a Skype or Zoom call with people around the world. So if your daily commute is longer than 1 hour, you may be able to use that time to be productive as opposed to staring at rear bumpers. Next up, we'll discuss the fourth and final factor to drive the automobile's technological transformation and revolution: manufacturing. In order to have these futuristic cars, the world will need need equally futuristic factories to build them. Makes sense, right? It's perfectly logical. The reason being that the architecture of all of the software and hardware system used in the production of these future cars is currently being redesigned. For example, 3D printers are revolutionizing the actual bodies of the future cars themselves. Essentially, the goal is to create the most lightweight body possible using various composite materials. In order to achieve the information connectivity that we previously discussed, new so-called smart devices must be used in the manufacturing and production processes. This means that future cars must be built with advanced computers, cameras, and even information and entertainment systems. To accomplish this, automotive engineers and electronic system designers are having to completely redesign the electronic architecture of tomorrow's cars. As you can imagine, this is an incredibly complex process, and if you're finding that this is a difficult concept to grasp, you can relax because it's not. Essentially, the goal or the purpose of redesigning the automobile's electronic architecture is to completely remove the need for car wiring and go from wires to wireless systems. See? Pretty simple, right? Up next, we'll discuss the impact that future cars will have on society. The impact that future cars will have on society will be significant and profound. However, there's no need to worry because thankfully, that impact will be a very positive one. The overall benefit to society of electronically autonomous and connected cars will be greater safety on the road, far less pollution, free more time, and access to a wider range of services and information. But of course, anything worth doing isn't always easy, and oftentimes it's downright difficult. And for those at the helm of the automotive industry's technological revolution, the task before them is a daunting one. There are giant hurdles and obstacles that they must successfully overcome if they are to succeed on their mission. Naturally, the first major obstacle that they will have to overcome is the technology itself. Advancing technology and pushing the boundaries of what is technologically possible requires some of the brightest minds in the world to come together and working hard for hundreds of thousands of hours. And this research and development process can cost millions or even billions of dollars. The other two major hurdles are legislative and industrial. Industrial and legislative processes that are outside of automotive manufacturers' control can and will likely hamper manufacturers' abilities to provide future cars to consumers as quickly as possible. So because of these major obstacles, it's unlikely that every car on our roads will be autonomous anytime soon. Finally, not only will the cars of the future look insane, but they'll help to improve our world. How cool is that? There's no denying the fact that in the future, as environmental degradation continues to advance into its later stages, governmental policies and legislation in countries around the world will likely shift to a more pro-environmental position. And when it comes to electronic autonomous cars, not only will we see safer roads, sleeker and cooler looking body designs, but we'll be improving the environment for future generations, our children and our grandchildren. Hopefully, manufacturers can improve the technology of autonomous cars so that they are 100% effective and reliable. At the time of this recording, engineers are still very much in the working out a few kinks stage, but as the research and development progress, these kinks will surely be ironed out. And when they are, we'll certainly be excited to see some of these spectacular vehicles on our freeways, interstates, and highways. But aside from the safety and environmental benefits of autonomous future cars, perhaps one of the greatest benefits of these vehicles has added to productivity and time. Time is arguably one of the most valuable commodities on Earth, and for those traveling frequently, spending hundreds of hours on the roads, the ability to be hands-free without worry and use that travel time for something more productive could prove to be invaluable. Think of what students, business professionals, or anyone really could do with all of that time if the vehicle that was transporting them was autonomous and connected to massive information systems and services. This new boost to human productivity could be incredibly beneficial and pay huge dividends to millions of people in the long run. Thank you for listening and watching. Please click the like and subscribe to our channel. More exciting and informative videos are on the way!